Hi, now I'm going to talk about services. If you want to share data among components, you need to create a service. If you need any utility function, just like you want to create a function to sort the data of an array, you define a service and write that function in that service. And from that service, you can access data in multiple components rather than adding a function in each component that will create a lot of duplication of same code. So I have nothing, but I have this project. I have nothing in my app.component.ts file. I have nothing in HTML file, in module file. So first of all, I need to create a service. So in order to create a service, if I go to my github.com/angular/angular-cli, I can see that there are these ways we can create a service. And for creating a service, ng space g space service, and after that I need to write the name of my service. So let's come back to our project in WebStorm, and here I'm gonna write ng space g, I'm gonna write service, and after that I'm gonna name the service, and the name of my service should be let's say my data. So I'm gonna press enter. It's gonna take some time and create a service in my app folder where my components exist and my pipes exist, my custom components that created for the routing exist. So I've already created a tutorial that how to do routing, how to create components. Make sure to check that out because I'll be using one of these members of product component to share this service data. Okay, so service has been created, it is not being showing up. I need to refresh this folder, so I'm gonna close it and click on it again. You can see that the service has been created, my-data.service.ts, and above that I have my data service for writing unit tests. Okay, I'm not be writing unit tests right now. So I have this injectable import from the Angular core. I have this injectable function call, and this is the class in which I'll be writing my service function. So inside this service, I need to create few functions or any data. It can be any object, it can be any variable, and that variable can be accessed outside this service. So first of all, I need to add this service in my module. So I will open app.module.ts file and write after this app component, I'm gonna write import. Within curly braces, I need to write the name of my service. If I go to my data.service, this is the name of my service. So I'm gonna copy this name and paste it right here. And this is from the path my data service. Okay, so once that has been imported, I need to add it as a provider in this app.module.ts. So this is the provider. I need to copy and paste the name of my service. So this has been added in my app.module.ts file. So now I'll go to my service and I need to define outside this, after this constructor, let's say I want to create a function. So let's say I want to create a function success. Okay, so it's gonna return me a message successful, and above that let's create an object. So I will write the object and I'm gonna name it obj equals to id, and id would be 1, name would be my name, and roll number, let's say this one. Okay, so I have created an object and I've created this function. I'm gonna save it. Now I need to use this data, this function or this variable outside the service within the components. So I have nothing in my HTML. I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna close the module.ts because I just need to add it in my provider. So I'm gonna close this one, and in my component I need to add the import statement in this component. So I'm gonna go back to my app.module.ts and I need to copy the same import statement that I wrote inside it, and I'm gonna paste it right here. Okay, So now in order to use this service within this component, I need to use a constructor function. So I'm gonna write constructor, and I'm gonna write private, and I'm gonna name the service, and here this is the variable of service. I can name it anything. So new service colon, and after that my data service curly braces. So I have added that service in this constructor with the new name of that service. So I'm gonna save it. So now I'm going to console.log this message, okay, whether it shows up or not. So I need to first write ng on init. This will be automatically called as our digestive cycle, and whenever that app component will be initialized, this will automatically be called. So inside it, I'm going to write console.log, and inside it I'm going to call this dot new service dot, and you can see that it is showing me all the variables, function name, and an object that are available in my service. So I'm gonna call a success function. So now let's run our application to see if we got this message or not that will be returned by this function as successful in our console.log. So after some time our application has been started. Now I need to go back to my localhost colon 4200, and inside my console.log you can see that the message successful has been printed. So our service function is being accessed within our component. Okay, so let's try to access our variable. So I'm going to write console.log and this dot new service dot object. Okay, so let's save it and I'll go back. You can see that our object has been fetched from that service within our component. Now, as I mentioned at the start, that we can share data among different components. So right now app.component.ts is our default component. In order to use the same service in our other components that I have already created, make sure to check out my previous video in order to see how to create a component. So I'll go back to my product component and I'll open up my product.component.ts, and inside it, in order to use that service, I need to copy this line and paste it, and I need to bring up our service just like I did in my default component. So I'll copy and paste it right here. Okay, so inside my ng on init function of our this is giving me an error because I'm inside a folder. So I need to go back a bit more in order to access the path of my service. Okay, so make sure you write dot dot forward slash before the name of our service. Okay, so inside our ng on init, I'm going to write console.log and I'm going to write this dot new service dot success. Okay, but in order to use this component, I need to add its selector within our HTML template of our default component, as I explained you in my previous video. So inside it, I'm going to write the name of our app product component. So I'm going to go back and you can see that it has shown up product works because this was because of our HTML. Okay, but if you see right here, this is this successful is from app.component.ts, and this object have been logged from the app.component.ts, and this successful message is from the product component. So we are accessing the service from the product component as well as from our default app component. Okay, now the benefit of doing this way is that if I change anything from any of these components, it will also reflect the change in other component because the service is independent. That service will have only one instance. If I change the value of any key of this service from any of these components, it's going to reflect in other components. So I'm going to remove both the lines, and inside ng on init I'm going to write this dot new service dot object dot name, and I'm going to change the name to John. Okay, so after that I am going to log the name. Okay, let's first go to our product.component.ts, and I'm going to remove from here as well. Okay, so let's go back to our browser. You can see that the John has been printed because before printing the name of our object, I changed the value of name key. Now if I copy this one and paste it in product.component.ts, this should print the changed name. I changed the name of service key in app.component. Now I want to see whether that change has been occurred if I call the same service from other component or not. So I will write product this message in other component. So I'm gonna save it and go to my browser. You can see this is from our other component, that is product component. This is from our default component. So we can see that the same function, the same object, same variables, same service functions can be utilized in multiple components. These services are independent. So in order to write same logic in each component, it's always a good practice to create a service and write that utility function in that service. So that's for it. I hope that you have liked it. Make sure to subscribe my channel and like this video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next part of this tutorial series.